Oh my god, we're doing a reading vlog. Time to try something a little bit different here on the channel. I want to do a reading vlog because there's a lot of times where I start books, I pick them up, and I don't even say I DNF them, but like I'm like, okay, that was good, I'll save that to later, and then I don't get my thoughts out, and sometimes working my thoughts out before I do like a wrap up for the month or talk about it on Chatting with Nuts feels good. And also, I just kind of want to do this. Maybe I'll become a girly booktube vlogger after all this. Once I make it big, of course. These are going to be a little bit more relaxed. The audio probably won't be as refined. I want to make these as low maintenance as possible. So I've just kind of embraced chaos this year. I've been talking about how I'm going to be doing a lot of more mood reading, not a ton of scheduled reads, though there are some. But March is definitely the first month where I can kind of feel that fluidity coming back to bite me a bit. I think I have started or am in the middle of about 6 books. Truly, it's probably 8, but there are 2 that I've kind of stuck to the side, and I know that those aren't going to be read for quite a while. But there are 3 other ones that I've started this month that I'm going to consider like partial reads or side reads. Like I'm not guaranteeing I'll finish them anytime soon, but the progress has begun. But let's talk about books that I'm reading right now. I'm about to hop on a flight and I'll be gone for the next 4 days. I plan on getting a good amount of reading done on the flight, as well as whenever I have some downtime in my room. But I wanted to get this done before I left because I know if I don't do it now, I just won't do it at all. The book I was planning on reading on this vacation, if you want to call it that, is a book that I will not actually be reading on my vacation because I don't want it to ruin my vacation, and that is A Little Life. This book is very popular, has hundreds of thousands of ratings on Goodreads. Apparently, it is a very popular vlog book. I did not plan it like this, and it's a bit polarizing. I will say I think it's mostly favorable from what I've seen, but the people who hate this book really hate this book, and I can definitely see why. I'm about, I don't know, almost halfway through this bad boy, and it is extraordinarily difficult to read at times. This book is a runner-up, I think. No, it was a finalist in the Man Booker Prize. So critical acclaim, also seems to be a hit with the people. And it is as difficult as everyone says it is. I do not shy away from darker fiction. I tend to find something compelling usually about a dark story. And that's probably because of my more depressive state that I live in, I guess. I don't know why. I'm not going to sit here and psychoanalyze myself. But, this book is maybe one of the dreariest books that I've ever read. And that is why I won't be reading on vacation, because I really don't want to be in this mental state that this book kind of puts me in or reminds me that I'm in. It feels like every time I open A Little Life, like this book is a rainy day. And you might say, well, I like rainy days. I know. Sometimes I like rainy days too, but sometimes I don't like rainy days, and they really bring me down. That's what this book is. I have no idea if I like this book yet. I know I like parts of it. I really like the friendship. I like some of the aging that the characters go through. So if you don't know, this is about a group of friends in New York City living life, dealing with tragedy and trauma and failures and successes and jealousy and ambition and everything. It is trying to cover a lot of what would happen, for really middle-aged male friends who have known each other for a long time since college. And that's the part I do like about this. I really like the friendship in this book, and the struggles of friendship as well. And all the things that I just mentioned thematically very much do work for me in this book. It is horrifying what some of the characters are going through, particularly one. And I will not give my opinion on it until I finish the book, but I have a lot of opinions. The one thing I will say I don't like about A Little Life, for sure, is it is set in New York City, and I feel like it doesn't matter at all. There is almost nothing about this book that makes me think that it needed to be set in New York City. And if you've lived in New York City a long time and you're watching this, and you're like, no, there's amazing, please let me know. But from what I can tell, and other books that I've read that are set in New York City that I really like, and also, by the way, I love New York City. This book just is not at all taking advantage, I think, personally, on the setting, which is a bit disappointing because I was excited that it was set in New York City. So that's one thing I definitely don't like about the book. But when it comes to like the core of it and the friendship and stuff, I am enjoying it. It's just really tough to get through. And I think I've hit that point where I've heard people say it makes you sad and then it makes you mad. I think I've reached the mad state. I decided that the next 4 or 5 days I'm out of town, that it'll be a great time to take a break from A Little Life. because I was furious reading this yesterday. And my initial reaction was, what's wrong with this book? And I think whenever a book makes us like really uncomfortable or angry or feel any other emotion that maybe we don't want to feel at the time, the first reaction is like we need to figure out what's wrong with the book. But a lot of times it makes me pause and think about, why do I feel this way, and why do I feel upset that I feel this emotion, whatever it might be. So yeah, I have a lot of thoughts going in this, but I need to collect them a little bit more. But that's kind of where I'm at. It is as bleak as what people say. I don't think that's its only merit, though. I do think that there are things in the book I don't necessarily like. These vlogs are going to be spoiler-free unless noted otherwise. But we'll see. Whenever I get back, I'll probably resume this. I've been doing a lot of it on audio. I think the audiobook is rather good. The narrator does a nice job. But I will be continuing this once I actually get back from my vacation. So let's talk about what I will be reading on my vacation. Hopefully, at least one of these I will definitely be reading. Guy Gavriel K has done it again. I am just a little over halfway through Sailing to Sarantium, and it is just a slammer, dude. Byzantine inspired, a guy who is just an amazing mosaicist, is taking his master's name and basically faking his identity to go to Sarantium, which is the city with a capital C. And he runs into some people along the way. Yeah, the atmosphere of this is the best of any Guy Gavriel K book I've read. I've read Tagana, Lions of Al Rasan, Under Heaven, and what? Oh, Song for Arbonne, which is my favorite. And ironically, I forgot it. This definitely has the best setting so far for me. And I'm excited that there is another book set in this world. And I'm also shocked by being in chapter, whatever it is, 6 of 10, that this book has the characters just now getting to the city. I feel like the last 40% of this book is going to be ridiculous, and maybe I should adjust my expectations since there is a book 2. Maybe a lot more of it happens there. I really don't I shouldn't say understand. I have no context of what the sequel actually covers. But I'm excited to read more of it. The writing in this might be my favorite that I've had from Guy Gavriel K. Like, a lot of people always talk about how poetic he can be and just like the right words, and I totally agree with you. This one more so than any of his others. And it kind of makes you feel like his writing style is slightly elevated to match the character that is so talented in an art himself. And I think that is probably very intentional. So I hope to get to this on my vacation, but it might not happen because I had a side read that has turned into my very main read, and that is Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. I wanted to stab myself in the eyes the first 40 pages, the first part of this book. So I think it's like, I want to say 5 stories that happen at different times, and each story kind of builds on the last one, even though they're not directly connected, it seems. And then you work your way down into the, a very future POV. And then on this back half of this book, you're supposed to work your way back. So each story gets resolved. Very strange. It's a very strange book. It's a very ambitious book. But the first section of this book was written so annoyingly to me. And it was on purpose because one of the things David Mitchell is just excellent at is switching up style, switching up character voices. But the character that opens up Cloud Atlas is so unforgivably like dense and pretentious, and it should be. But if I had not read Bone Clocks and Slade House and loved those, I probably would have been like, dude, this is not for me. But I trusted the process. As soon as that section ended, we got to the next POV, next story. It has grabbed me. There have been moments in this where I'm kind of just amazed by what's transpiring and the range of this book, but more so, I got to be honest with you, this book is just so funny at times. And I am one of those people when someone tells me like a book, are you people like this? Like every time someone tells me a book's funny, I want to be the contrarian and be like, it's not funny. I'm going to read it and not laugh. So I understand that there are people watching this right now and you're saying, I bet it's not funny. And you probably read it out of context and be like, it's not funny, but I can't, it's like unexpected humor, I guess. And just the personality and the charisma of some of these characters that are just like filthy SOBs, just like dastardly at times. Oh God, they're so funny. There's one guy, he literally just goes on about how this guy's has teeth colored like biscuits. And for some reason, it just murdered me. I thought it was so funny. It's just a disgruntled old man who's being tricked and he's so mad. So Cloud Atlas became one of my side reads, and then it quickly took over. And this is one I do plan to finish on my trip, and I hope to finish it when I get back. I'll take some B-roll where I'm going, but when I get back, hopefully I can tell you my final thoughts on it. But as of right now, watching this onion get peeled and figuring out by myself like kind of what's going on has been very rewarding, on top of just like excellent writing. I think David Mitchell's like literally one of the best. So with everything that I want to read this year, I thought it would be a great idea to start a Malazan reread, apparently. I'm rereading Gardens of the Moon. I have started this reread many, many times and then kind of just been like, I'll get to it someday. Boy, oh boy. This time I've kind of actually stuck to it. I think I'm in book 2 or 3. How many pages? I'm 170 pages in, and I am not a believer. If someone tells you have to read Malazan twice to understand it, they're liars, in my opinion. I think even if there are things that you don't understand, there's plenty of resources out there and people to talk to that can explain these things. I think that this series is absolutely satisfying and complete whenever you finish the 10th book. You don't have to read it more than once. But rereading this, like most of my favorite things, when I reread, I get a lot more out of it. But some of the minor details that Erickson put on the nose for a guy who's supposedly hiding a bunch and playing with you, he tells a lot of stuff right there on the page if you were only paying attention. And I missed a lot of this on my first read, and I think I'm a better reader than when I first started Malazan, to be honest, and that helps, but obviously having full series context helps as well. Seeing some of the bricks being laid for stuff that pays off in book even like 10, I love it. I love it. The more that I think about the fantasy series that I've journeyed through, very few feel as rewarding as Malazan. So am I going to read all the 10 books this year? Probably not. Will I finish this Gardens of Moon reread? I hope so. I've been reading it just at any pace, even if it's 5 pages every now and then. And there's no rush because I've already finished them. So I hope to continue this, but why would I pick to start a reread of Malazan when I have all these other things to read? I don't know. I really don't. Okay, and then like 2 other ones I just want to update you guys on that I'm reading. And no guarantee these get finished. These are just, this is what I do. And I don't really show these on the wrap-ups because like I start books, sometimes I'll read 100 pages and I put them down. Just is what it is. Not because I want to DNF them, because I just know that I'm getting over a burden. But one I've been reading before bed every night is Haruki Murakami's Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World. I read Wind-Up Bird Chronicle, loved parts, didn't like parts, came away very conflicted, but had a lot to say, which is important. This is a good one to read before bed because there's a lot of like dream state writing. I think that's one of the things that he actually excels at. But it only took the man like 3 chapters to start mentioning like pubic hair and menstrual cycles. And I'm just like, what? This was in Wind Up Bird Chronicle, and I know he's like infamous for like not writing the best women, though one of my arguments was in Wind Up Bird Chronicle that I don't think the male characters were exceptionally 3D either. So I just don't think characters in general are something that he's like going to spend all this time and really round them out. So I actually found the characters to be a little bit better in Wind Up Bird Chronicle than some of the naysayers, but without a doubt, some weird infatuations that he has. And they were right there in like the first 3 chapters. And it's just like, God, I was loving this. And this came up. Can I let it slide? Yeah, but it does get a little bit annoying, to be honest with you. Will I continue this? Yeah, probably. Will I finish it anytime soon? Maybe not. It's pretty good so far. It's really weird. I think the plot inherently is way more interesting than Wind Up Bird Chronicle. But that book did a lot of really, really amazing things with World War II, like history and impact and all these things in Japan. So it'd be really hard to top that, I think. But, you know, hopefully I can continue. It's only 400 pages. And the other one is, of course, because of the hype train, choo-choo, I'm basic, is Children of Dune. Read Dune Messiah a few years back. Obviously, I really love both of the movies that just came out. And I know that makes me typical here on the book sphere or whatever. I don't really, honestly, I don't care. Children of Dune, I have read, how many pages have I read? I haven't read it in a few days. 50 pages of Children of Dune, and I am digging this so very much. It feels like it's going to go some really weird and cool places. My audiobook for this actually came in from the library. I've been doing way less audio. Little Life is actually, I think, the only audio that I'm currently on, though I do have Cloud Atlas as well, because I like immersion reading on the plane. But my library hold for the audiobook came up for this. So if I can finish one of these 3 books, I might be able to fit this in at the tail end of March. But it's not. I read the 50 pages and I was like, I don't want this to be a side read. Like when I read this, I want to be in this universe, in this world, and focused. So I would really like to finish up Sailing the Sarantium Cloud Atlas before I focus on Children of Dune. I would say out of the 3 side reads of Gardens of the Moon, Hardboiled Wonderland, and this is probably the one that would get finished. So 16 minutes. God damn it. I'm trying to find a balance between like giving you my ongoing running ranty thoughts, but also not taking up 16 minutes every time I shoot this shit, because I don't want it to be an hour and a half of reading vlog. But maybe that's what y'all want. I don't know. You just have to figure it out with me along the way, okay? I hope this audio didn't suck, and I gotta go catch a flight. So I'll see you in the next update. Check it out. My hair's all kinds of messed up, but I'm trying to be a little bit more in the moment. So don't be mean. All right, I just got back last night from Disney and Universal Studios in Florida. I had a pretty good time. I don't ever want to go to Disney again, I don't think, but I did have a good time at Universal Studios and got a lot more reading done than I thought I would, but it wasn't as wide as maybe you would have hoped since my last update. But I did finish, in fact, Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. I explained that I had had issues with the first 40 pages, but it had caught me up since then. I'd been invested in his voice, changing from each little short vignette that was going deeper and deeper in the timeline was amazing. And I have to tell you that I think after finishing this, I finished it on the plane ride back, and I was reading it on my phone. I ended up buying the ebook version, reading on my phone while I was waiting in line for rides and stuff, because this book grabbed me and did not let me go. I think that the structure of this is so special and unique, and other people have done it, but to begin so far back, almost like in a kind of current or post-California Gold Rush with Aboriginals in New Zealand, and then sailing back all the way into a very far future where I think people were living in clouds. I think that's what I gathered from it. David Mitchell tackles multiple genres. He tackles multiple issues that somehow link over centuries, I think, in time. I think maybe it pushes to centuries. And just a warning of being predatory and how a predatory species like humans can lead to ruin if not checked. And this is not just environmentally, but also for each other and the things that we create. I genuinely think that this is one of the best books that I have ever read. Without a doubt, an all-timer for me. I think it's better than The Bone Clocks. I really think this is one of the greatest books I've ever read. And to the point where I am always fence sitting. And also, this is like just one of those books that I could not stop thinking about. And thinking about like, would I have enjoyed this many years ago? And I sit on fences, and I always try to look at it from other people's perspective and like why people might not like something. Because, you know, I talk to thousands of people in these videos at times. This is one of those ones I don't care. I don't care about the other side of it. If you hate this book, I get it. For me, I'm confident in the fact that I absolutely adored this book. I would maybe even throw around the word masterpiece at it, even though knowing that it's going to be a high bar of entry for some people just based on the style of it. But the way the book is set up is these multiple stories get told to you, and then before they're resolved, you get cut off, and then you get sent into the future. And the back half of the book is just picking back up where you left off with those stories and then wrapping them up. So it's like first in, last out type of thing. So the story that started the book ends the book. And it's almost like the literary equivalent of edging, because like you get so invested in the story and you're about to find out a twist or some big resolution or a big event happens, and then you cut away to this next thing. But the back half of the book is like 5 climaxes in a row, essentially, because you're getting resolutions, these stories that hopefully you care about, which I did. I cared about it a lot. And even the first story, the first 40 pages of the book that I wasn't huge on, I loved the second half of it because I could kind of see where it all went and how it all comes back. And because it starts so far back in time and then so far in the future, you see like this de-evolution, evolution to de-evolution of language that is amazing. And I do know that the deepest part of this book, the deepest rabbit hole of this book, the farthest one in the future is based on a book that I can't remember the name of, but my friend Pekka told me about it. And I want to say it was something Ridley Walker, maybe. I'll put it up on the screen in text or the book cover if I can. And it made me just love the idea that in the future, the language will change, obviously based on location, but just based on the people. So, people will comment that a tissue is a Kleenex, even though that's a brand. So in the deep future, they're referring to things as Starbucks when they really mean coffee, or a Sony when they're talking about, I think what would have been like an MP3 player or something like that. Like brands have become general terms, and people don't even know that it was a brand back in the day because it's so far in the future. Just stuff like that is really cool. And the little breadcrumbs that you get with David Mitchell's further in the future stuff, his sci-fi stuff in this book is just, man, you could write a boatload of stories based on the little pieces of world building that he ended up giving you later in the novel. And it has me questioning it. Breadcrumbs between the stories that kind of explain how we got there, but there's these large gaps. So he doesn't give you all of the answers, but man, you could tell he has it figured out. What a absurd book. Like an absurd book written with such confidence and precision. I don't know if I've read a book ever like this. I don't know if I ever will again. And yes, Bone Clocks was vignettes. Slade House has little vignettes and jumps time. And these are things that Mitchell likes to do in all of his works. But I really feel like Cloud Atlas is on a mountain by itself. I am huge on this book. I'm so big on this book. So much so that I didn't want to wait anymore to record. So I ended up coming up here and, I look like crap. But it's a reading vlog, so it's fine. Yeah. Cloud Atlas was the book I finished. I did read a little bit more of Sailing to Sarantium. And I got to say, the opening of part 2, there's only 2 parts in the book, so it's right in the middle. The first chapter or 2 in the second part are the best chapters so far. So I was already in, mainly because I trust GGK and I like the introduction. But wow, the high points of this book are really hitting. And then of Little Life, which a lot of people are probably watching this for. I read about one more chapter. I'm in part 4, and things have just flown off a cliff as far as like how bad can things get. It just only gets worse. And I'm having a lot of trouble with it. And it's one of those things where like I'm kind of flirting with the DNF because I feel like I understand what the book's going for at this point, and I think I know where this is going. And I don't know how much more I'm going to get out of it. Like I feel like I have a ton to say about the book already without even finishing it, and I don't know if I want to subject myself to more of this. Now, that is not to say that I think it's horrible or it shouldn't exist. That's where I draw the line. Like, I don't believe that. I think that, you can write all types of stories, even if you don't have experiences in those situations or whatever. But all this to say that it's really well written, but man, is it painful. And I thought maybe taking a couple-day break from Little Life, coming back to it, I'd be more refreshed, ready to go. Not the case. Not the case. I turned it on and honestly got more nauseated, I think. And I am glad I didn't read it while I was on my trip, because I think it would have been bad. It would have been very bad for my mental space. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't have as much to say about Little Life after only reading one chapter. But, people's lives can be super duper tragic. And there's a part of me that feels like I owe it to the folks that go through those things, to, even if it's a fictional tale, to kind of like sit with them. Does that make sense? I don't know if it does. Erickson said something like this whenever he talked about writing some of the more difficult scenes in Malazan, and it always resonated with me. But yeah, we'll see. Now that Cloud Atlas is done, I'm focusing on sailing to Sarantium in Little Life. But if I'm being dead honest with you, this morning when I got up and was working out, stretching, listening to the audiobook, I was like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. This is really bringing me down. And I've read a lot of depressing books. It's kind of my jam, but never one that's 900 pages. You know, a lot of them are shorter. So we'll see. And I guess it's getting back in the swing of things, trying to come back from a little break is tough. I got a lot of work to do. Work is slammed right now. And then on top of that, I'm trying to do these vlogs. And I got to get back to the jiu-jitsu gym. I haven't been in a week, which is always a bad time because that means my cardio is going to suck. But yeah, hopefully I'll talk to you real soon. Cloud Atlas, an absolute slammer. Have reached the final stage of this vlog. My cat is begging me to play with her, even though I just played with her. This is it. I'm about to go meet Taylor from Made Between the Pages. If you've never seen her channel, you should totally go check it out. She is wonderful. She's been a guest on Chatting with Nuts. She is in from Japan. She lives there full time, but she's visiting some family back here in the States. So I'm going to go meet her for some dinner and tapas or coffee or whatever. But maybe I'll throw like a picture of us up here. I doubt I'll take any. Maybe I'll take video. I don't know. Anyways, maybe I'll play even before this, and you'll be like, "What in the world are you talking about?" This is the wrap up this reading month, and it's going to be Little Life, Sailing to Sarantium, and I'll mention a book that I'm starting but not going to finish here on the vlog because I want to get this thing out before the end of the month. But we need to talk about A Little Life. I finished it. I obviously had conflicting feelings because of the nature of the book and just how prevalent abuse was, and I'm done. And I had fallen off a cliff, I think, in part 4 or 5, and I just became numb to everything that was happening in the book. But on the way down into the canyon of depression, I found myself hitting some bumps along the way, snatching some twigs and branches and feeling again. And there were moments I actually did end up crying when I read this book, like most vloggers do, except I didn't film myself crying because I thought that would be weird. However, I'm not sure if it's because it's so excellently written or because I'm just a general human being who cries at sad events whenever they're really, really horrible. And make no mistake, anything that you think in the first half of this book was awful gets way worse by the ending. And that is kind of the theme of this. It went so far into despair that I just began not apathetic, but just numb and sad. But then those moments at the end kind of caught me off guard. So I don't know exactly how I feel about this book. I think I gave it 3 stars. I know. I gave it 3 stars. Doesn't mean a whole lot in the context because there's things about this book that I think are 5 stars. I think the writing is great. I think the time that's taken into like the little pieces of monotony in the characters' everyday lives is amazing. There's also 1-star things about this that I just thought were a little bit over the top. And with this kind of book, the thing that kind of surprises me about it is not the fact that it's up for like critical acclaim and awards and stuff, but it's more so how unanimous when this first came out, it seems that the critical response was. And there's probably merit to that. But then, you know, there's always a wave afterwards that comes in. And when I looked at both the praise and the criticism of this book, I'm going to be honest with you, I feel I am more compelled by the people who actually love this book. Because at the end of the day, this book did get me to feel things. It got me to think and to debate myself and the author at times. And that means that there's something worthwhile, I think, being put forth here. Whether or not it's accurate or not is probably the bigger question. There does seem to be people very upset because the author said in an interview that they did not do research behind these things, just kind of wrote it as it came to them. And I understand whenever you're dealing with such sensitive topics that you would like it to be very accurate. But I also think We can't expect every single author to do research on every single thing. I also don't think that she got everything wrong. I know that there's probably a lot of information out there that could take this book and pick it apart, and that's great. But I did think that the crowd around Jude, who really is the main character of this book, I feel like their reactions and their ability to deceive themselves about what Jude was really going through or who he was or the troubles he was having are realistic, at least in my experience, in my past and other people I know. And I do wonder at times if the numbness that is present in the reader by the end of this book possibly is a commentary on how at some point we just give up on people, or we say enough is enough. Let me know when you've picked yourself up. I have been that depressed friend where people did not want to extend me any more grace. I've also had people in my life, I've seen it happen to them. I think it's a very real thing. I feel like it's kind of a natural thing, and it's also horribly sad. The people around Jude in this book, like if there's a bright spot, is the fact that I do think many of them, even if they are deceiving themselves about Jude's situation, they are extending themselves far past what I think a lot of people would do, depending on how good your friends are. So that is one of the bright spots of the book. But the other thing I see a lot of the criticism about is how this book makes you feel like when you go into the world that the world will do things to you, you are a victim, and then you can do nothing about it. I didn't get that message from this book at all. In fact, I think that's kind of a reach. And I saw that the critic kind of weighed that towards a generational thing, Zoomers and millennials wanting to be a victim. I don't honestly very much agree with this. I don't think this is what this book's getting at all, to be honest. So I just didn't find any of that criticism to be all that compelling. And then with dark, bleak books, I've always heard people, especially if it leans into more like the nihilistic themes, even if it just explores nihilism, right? They say, well, there's no point to this, therefore it sucks. I don't agree with that. I don't think there has to be a point to art. I don't think there has to be a point to a lot of things in life. I think you can simply just do them, experience them, and that is what they are. And, I think it resonates for people for a reason. So those are the things that I find to be more compelling, less compelling than the people who are raving about it. Now, one of the things I've seen online is people are very annoyed about this book because people are reading it, posting vlogs of them crying and stuff. And you know what? I get it. Some of it's very performative. But I think reading this book, whether you've experienced some of this stuff or not, I think can affect you. And I don't think that we should, make fun of people or shame people that are genuinely having a reaction. And it's up to us to decide, I guess, who's being performative and who isn't. But does it really matter at the end of the day? I feel like a lot of people I see that diss this book almost come from a position of like, the author tried to manipulate me and they could not. But I would argue that every time you open a book, you are surrendering yourself to be manipulated. There's a great line by R. Scott Baker about this that I don't have at hand. But so yeah, it's a mixed bag. There's a real lack of growth in the world, in the technology, in the world events that we happen around this time, and even like socially, I would say, aren't really present. And it focuses in on the characters, which is what she's trying to do. But for me, it made the novel feel a bit one note, not mentioning the fact that it was just beating me over the head. At times, I felt like the author was shouting in my face. Not to tell me what's right and wrong, actually, but just telling me, like, look how awful this thing is, even though she was using very plain language, trying to balance it out. So Little Life's just a very conflicting book for me. And I'm sorry that this rant has went on so long. I have tried to figure out exactly how to talk about this, and it gets harder the more I think about it. So I just had to kind of come here and do this thing. Also, worst cover ever. This cover's terrible. Who did this? I don't like it. Little Life is a conflicting book. One of the hardest books I've ever read. Easily the most depressing book I've read. And I've read quite a few of them. But I don't think a book gets critical acclaim just for being sad. This is something else I've seen from people who really hate this book. In the same way that comedy isn't going to resonate with everyone and everyone has different senses, I think for sadness, there seems to be this idea that there's a universal, like if a dog dies in a book or something, we're all going to cry. It's not the case, especially if you approach books and you look at it as like, okay, this is a narrative someone is telling me. It really does depend on execution. And I think for how many people this resonated with, is there a little bit of shock value in there? Yeah. Is it gratuitous at times? I believe so. Contrary to some of the praises I see about this book. I do think that. But those things have their place. And Little Life, I'm glad it's over. And I don't think I'll ever read this again. Editing Jimmy here. I'm watching back my video and where I talk about Little Life, and I know a lot of this vlog has been about Little Life, so I apologize for those who don't care. But since I recorded this, and I feel like I came out pretty heavily in defense of the book, I finally got to read most of the interviews that people consider to be extremely controversial from this author. One of them being that she wanted to write a book about a protagonist that doesn't get better. I have no problem with that. I think that that's valid. However, seeing her interview where she basically refutes therapy. I was under the impression that maybe she was refuting therapy for the sake that maybe some people are possibly too far gone, which maybe they are. It take a lot of research to figure that out. And I also think, that there are times where therapy works for people very, very well, but maybe in some minor cases there are chances that therapy doesn't work for everyone, every type of therapy or whatever. Like, there's a lot of conversation to be had. However, her comments in her interview, were extraordinarily reductive and insulting, basically saying it's a dishonest profession, and also commented on how she feels emotionally stunted all men are, and these broad generalizations that are sweeping, along with a very uncharitable lens upon therapy, may make me dislike this book a lot more than I did when I finished it. And, I know separate the author and stuff, but like, I can't remove the idea that I know what authorial intent was behind it. And I just very much disagree. So, to be honest, I've thought about this book maybe more than any other book this year because of these things and how much I did not enjoy her interviews and the things that she had to say. You can go read them, Google them. They're there. I'm not going to sit here and cite every single thing, but it has certainly soured me a little bit more on the book. And I never want to think about this book again. I never want to, watching this footage is exhausting. And some of it's because there's trauma there that, it's not to be too personal, but it's bringing up with me. And knowing that the author went in with this intent to kind of shake it in your face is a little bit maddening, I guess. Or upsetting, or just annoying, maybe. So I never want to talk about this book again. I never want to think about this book again. And I will certainly never read this book again. I don't have my Sailing to Sarantium here, so let me just be very brief. I love Sailing to Sarantium. The first two chapters, after, I think maybe it was the first chapter after part one, which is at the halfway point. I was like, wow, this might end up being the best Guy Gavriel K book. Unfortunately, the back half of the book really kind of teetered for me. Not because it was bad or anything horrible happened. It just never kind of leveled up again for me after a certain scene with some chariots and such. That was just amazing. There's a court scene, which Guy Gavriel K has had in many of his books that I've read. And for me, it just felt like this person coming into this, for all intents and purposes, a foreign court, even though I think he has some expectations. And he's saying a lot of the right stuff to, basically save his own neck. That he's an imposter. I guess that's not much of a spoiler. He's kind of an imposter. And he's saying a lot of the right things, but he's also saying a lot of the wrong things, but he's saying the wrong things in just the right way to piss off the right people. And things are going to progress from there. And for some reason, it just felt really convenient, I think. I don't think it's the worst convenience ever. And maybe I'm alone in this, but I don't know. I didn't feel the tension in that scene like I wanted to. Also, expectations were a little bit off. I thought Sailing to Sarantium was going to be kind of like Under Heaven. Like Under Heaven has another book in that world where you can read it pretty far away because they're long apart. I did not realize that this duology, Sarantium Mosaic, Lord of Emperors, happens right after Sailing to Sarantium. So Sailing to Sarantium is a book one in every definition of the sense. it is literally a book one. And it stops. It's a bit of a cliffhanger. And I was expecting to feel full after Sailing to Sarantium. But now I realize I really do need to read the whole duology. Not a bad thing, but hopefully it'll adjust your expectations if you haven't read it. Because I was kind of expecting a standalone experience and then getting another one with Lord of Emperors. These two are very closely tied. So you need to read both probably within a reasonable amount of time. And I will. I'll probably read Lord of Emperors in April. Didn't plan on doing that, but here we are. So we'll be doing that. Maybe I'll cover it in a vlog. Who knows? Sailing to Sarantium, probably middle of the pack when it comes to Guy Gavriel K. And then the final thing I'm going to talk about in this vlog, because I have to get going so I can meet Taylor, is the fact that I have returned to Ostenard. It's Tad time, baby. Tad Williams is one of my favorite authors in the fantasy genre, really just in general. I love the guy. A part of being a great author, I think he's a great person. And I love Ostenard. Memory, Star, and Thorn is one of my favorite trilogies of all time. I think the world of Ostenard is absolutely fascinating. And I am reading The Heart of What Was Lost, which is a novel that comes between the two series he's written in this world, which is Memory, Star, and Thorn, and then The Last King of Ostenard, really making one big epic series. And this is a 200-page novel that is, from what I understand, for all intents and purposes, it is required to read. And I'm doing it. I'm halfway through it. And I cannot believe how much I remember from reading that trilogy like 3 years ago, but also just how amazing it feels to be back in a fantasy world that I feel immersed in and invested in, and characters showing up that I remember. And I'm like, oh yeah, I do have feelings for this character. I did miss this world. It's awesome. I'll talk more about this in my March in a nutshell video, probably come out a few days after this. So I'll save that for this, but it just feels really great to be back in Ostenard. And this is the end. These reading vlogs will get better with time. I'm going to try to add some stuff in to make them a little bit more unique. I don't want these to feel like just another wrap up. You are getting a little bit more of an unfiltered. I don't really script things very much, but I feel like this is a little bit more raw. So if I misspoke or if I take back an opinion I had, don't hold it against me. And I hope this is somewhat entertaining for you. And if so, then I will continue to make these, and I will definitely get better at them in time. Audio, video, we'll figure it out as we go. Thanks for checking us out. I appreciate it. I'll see you in the next reading vlog. Check out a nutshell after this or whatever. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. All right, I'm out. Love you. Bye. I want to give a big shout out to all my patrons, including my high tier patrons, my Kingsguard, which is Bridger, Zan, Adam K, Emil, Curtis L, Jonathan J, Prithvi, Eric B, Chadia, Steve Talks Books, Taylor D, Matthias D, Carlos, Yolanda, Amanda L, John C, John, Garrick, Evie, Henrik, Benjamin C, Sebastian M, Frank C, C. Scott, Jacob Wade, Darren, Jobot, Terrence F, Michael B, Lauren M, Nicholas E, Kai, Kev, Ryan, J, Shad, Amanda V, Ikaika, RJ, Stewart, Oscar, Derry, Tanner, Stromboli Bones, Damon H, and Robert M, Bass, and Kuiper. Thank you all so much. You're the best.